Shaila ma'am, should we start?
Yeah, you can start.
Yeah. Good afternoon. I'm Shresi Pal. I'm Associate Professor at BMS School of Architecture, Yelahanka, Bengaluru. We are a NAC accredited independent architectural college operating under the aegis of the prestigious BMS Educational Trust. Today's event is a part of a series of research orientation seminars aimed to foster research culture amidst the architecture academic fraternity. These events are open to everyone, and we are glad to welcome all the participants who are attending today's webinar from various parts of India. Please continue to be a part of this series where we support each other in navigating the challenges of scientific research. I request our director, Dr. Shaila Montanor, to welcome our distinguished guest speaker. Ma'am.
Thank you, Shresi, and hi, Soumya. I think we are meeting. This is the second time we are meeting, I guess, right?
Yeah, Dr. Shaila, thank you
Yeah,
for having me the second
yeah,
time as well.
yeah. So it's a really interesting session. You know, even the topic itself has made so many participants to join for this. In fact, I was so happy that I was just talking to Shresi.
Okay.
Around more than 100 participants have registered for this event. In fact, it was a very short notice,
Okay.
and just for all the participants, we want to mention that this is a research dialogue series, which we do it once in every month. It may be either second Saturday or maybe fourth Saturday, or sometimes even depending on the speaker. We organize these kind of a regular research dialogue series. The objective of this kind of a research dialogue series is we wanted to connect with all the researchers, even in terms of collaboration. Also in future, it may help us, and also to help all the registered candidates who have registered for the research. Basically, a lot of discussions gives us an idea that they do face a lot of problems at the beginning, and even at the mid of their research, what kind of a tools it is they have to use for their research, even sometimes how to do the literature review and all that. So basically, this kind of a research dialogue, we are focusing more on the methods or the tools sometimes which are used for the research, not exactly the content. The content of exact research by the presenter, but we wanted to focus the kind of a tools which are helpful, the kind of a softwares which may be helpful, the kind of a quantitative research the researcher must have implemented through his research. So those kind of things we are highlighting more on, so that it will be helpful for all the researcher who have enrolled or who are in the mid of their journey. And we are actually getting a lot of good response. Every time we saw that around more than 100, nearly the participants are always registered, and they do give us even a good feedback also. So that's why I think we are now continuing this every once in a month, and thanks to Shresi that every month she is rigorously working on this research dialogue series, and continuously identifying the good researchers across India. Even I think we are even opening it for even the scholars from across the globe also. So we are slowly working on that, and we are also recording these sessions. If anybody wanted to refer this, they can request us, and with the permission of the scholars or the speakers, we can share them. This is what the general idea of this, and we are so happy that this research dialogue series is happening successfully, and we are getting good response. So this is actually motivating us to have a continuous these kind of sessions. So I want to thank all the participants and who have registered for this. I'm sure this is going to be an interesting session, and once again, Soumya, welcome you. And I want to again welcome you for our school in person, maybe very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Very quickly, let me introduce our speaker for the fifth event in the series. Today, we are thrilled to have Dr. S Sowmiya Rani, an esteemed figure in the academic editing and research community, as our distinguished speaker. Dr. Sowmiya brings a wealth of experience to the table, serving as the editor at Editage, a renowned platform under Cactus Communications, and as a founder, editor, and reviewer at Sowmiya's AWW, which is Academic Writing Workshop. With over 6 years of experience as a speaker, Dr. Sowmiya has captivated audiences in many institutes of renown with her insights into various facets of academic research, manuscript writing, and science communication. In her impressive career, Dr. Sowmiya has edited over 1,500 scientific documents spanning research articles, reviews, thesis, grant applications, and more. Her expertise is widely recognized, earning her the distinction of being a highly ranked expert editor in the Center of Excellence for Biochemistry, Genetics, and Molecular Biology. Beyond her editorial prowess, Dr. Sowmiya is a dynamic entrepreneur and has founded Sowmiya's AWW, a startup dedicated to enhancing research quality and impact through faculty development programs and manuscript editing services. Her venture has been incubated in the prestigious programs such as the Women Startup Program at NSRCEL, Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and is co-incubated in the Kerala Startup Mission. She holds a PhD in plant biotechnology from Bharatiya University, Coimbatore, and University of Osnabrück, Germany, earned in 2020. Prior to this, she has completed an MSc in biotechnology from Bharatiya University, Coimbatore, securing the first rank and a gold medal. Her academic journey is marked by excellence, having been awarded prestigious fellowships, including the DAAD Model Scholarship for PhD Scholars and the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research Junior Research Fellowship or the CSIR JRF. With a multifaceted expertise and passion for advancing academic research, Dr. Sowmiya Rani promises to deliver an enlightening session on AI-powered research writing tools, offering invaluable insights to enhance and expedite the academic writing process. Join us as we delve into the future of research with one of the leading voices in the field. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shreya. That was a super extensive introduction. Thank you for having me here and also for that lovely introduction. So let me share my screen. I hope my screen is visible now.
Yes, it is.
Great. So good afternoon. It's really happy to know that you have this continuing series on research, and I'm very glad to be a part of the 5th session. And at the outset, wishing you and the team a great run with this series. Let it reach the 100 mile and much more, I would say. So I'm sure most of you here recognize this face on the screen, especially if you are a movie buff or you have kids who are movie buffs, then you might see this as the face of Doctor Strange of the Marvel series. If you're much more into movies, then you might also recognize him as the Sherlock Holmes of one of the most well-adapted form of the novel, I would say. And Benedict Cumberbatch also went on to do this one other amazing project called The Imitation Game. So this movie is set in the World War times when the Nazis were having an upper hand and the Allies were basically lost for what to do against them, especially because the Germans had this machine called Enigma. This is a machine that encrypts messages that are sent from the German base to the U-boats across the Pacific shoreline and also to the other resources stationed across the line. And Enigma was considered as unbreakable, and this gave a lot of confidence and a lot of advantage for the Germans. It is at this juncture that an English mathematician called Alan Turing enters the field, and Alan and his team go on to successfully break the code of Enigma. So why exactly are we talking about movies and one of my favorite heroes to be precise? It is to drive home the point that this man, Alan Turing, he not only broke the Nazi code or broke the code of Enigma, but then he also did a lot of founding work, the groundwork for computer science and also for artificial intelligence. So when we are talking World War, we are somewhere in the 1940s, that is like more than 6 decades ago. And artificial intelligence as a field, as a theory has been also in practice for more than 6 decades now. Just that we never had this word in our everyday vocabulary until November 2022 when ChatGPT was unleashed on the world. And when we say artificial intelligence, it is much more than ChatGPT or ChatGPT like chatbots, robotics, NLPs, LLMs. Artificial intelligence is an umbrella term that covers way many more things than just these handful we are most familiar with. And thanks to ChatGPT, that was released in November 2022 by this company called OpenAI. Every other person you meet talks about artificial intelligence. Every social gathering you go to, there is a discussion on artificial intelligence, on how it is advancing the world or how it's threatening our jobs, threatening our lives as such, and what. Interestingly, Elon Musk was one of the earliest investors in OpenAI. He leaves the company in 2018 or so, and 4 years down the lane, they come out with this amazing tool called ChatGPT. Musk, being Musk, he goes on a full-blown fight asking for his own credits for the development of this tool, but I doubt if that is ever happening. So I'm sure most of you have experience with ordering food from aggregators like Swiggy, Zomato, for instance, or ordering things from your online stores. And what happens when something goes wrong with your order? Say you order for a favorite dish on a Sunday afternoon, and then you're dumped with something you don't even like in the first place. You're sure to be pretty angry. I would be if it were me. And then we go on a full blown fight with not the restaurant, because most of the times we do not even have the details of the restaurant upfront. Swiggy has introduced that feature recently, I believe. We cannot fight with this delivery person. Poor thing, what can they do? But then we go on with this huge, lengthy conversation with the customer care support on these apps, which essentially is an AI. So AI is not new. Chatbots are not new to us. But then why are we so excited about this AI chatbot called ChatGPT or Gemini or Microsoft Copilot? It is because unlike the other chatbots that we have known until then, these chatbots are versatile. They can talk to you about pretty much anything and everything as long as the information is present on the interwebs. And in some cases, even when it is not, they tend to extrapolate on the knowledge they have, and this leads to a lot of problems in the form of their hallucinations, which we'll talk about. Yeah. So it is this versatility and their intelligence that has made these Gen AI tools pretty popular, and we have all given our blessings to these tools. They stood on the shoulders of giants like Google, for instance. Therefore, they started out as a multilingual tool. They didn't have to figure out multilinguality. It was already figured out by the other existing tools, and they started out with multilingual options, which means they had their appeal not only to the English speaking population, but they could also be accessed and appreciated by the non English speaking communities. This led to their widespread acclaim that they hold today. Google has been our trusted partner for several years now. So anytime we had a question, we ran to Google. And the moment ChatGPT walked into the room, our loyalty shifted from Google to ChatGPT. Because at the core, we are super lazy beings. When you ask a question to Google, yes, it gives you an answer, a slight 2 or 3 line summary. But beyond that, it hands you over a lot of resources which you have to sift through, find the relevant resources, read them, summarize them, and glean out the information that you actually want. Unlike that, when you ask the same question to ChatGPT, ChatGPT is your pampering, spoon feeding parent sometimes, and it tends to give you your answers in a pretty ready made format, and it kind of cuts down on the noise, cuts down on the time that you spend on arriving at this answer. But then also remember, this is our pampering parent, which means their topmost priority is to impress us, it's to keep us happy and tantrum free. And that is exactly what ChatGPT also tends to do. So when you ask a question to ChatGPT, the first time maybe it doesn't know the answer, it says, okay, I cannot find the answer. I do not know. I'm not equipped for this. But if you keep on pushing ChatGPT in different ways with different prompts, then it tries to extrapolate on the knowledge that it has and then create something out of it, an extended version of it. And these are known as hallucinations, because these extended versions, though they sound and feel like true facts, they indeed are not. They are just extended hallucinated versions of the answers that ChatGPT wanted to give you. And this is one of the reasons why you cannot take anything that comes out of an AI tool at its face value. You should apply a human filter to it, vet it thoroughly before you take it up into your own writing, into your own projects, especially when you're doing something as serious as research. If you want to figure out, master these Gen AI tools, then the first thing you should know about or master is something known as prompts. So prompts are nothing but these are the instructions that we give the tool. These are the ways in which we interact with the tool, tell them what we want, what we do not want, where to set the boundaries, so that these Gen AI tools come out with the accurate results. So gone are the days when we were trying to perfect one single prompt. Now we are at a stage where we are talking about cascading prompts, sequential prompts, and so on. So these are basically an entire conversation where initially, say for instance, I want to talk about a certain kind of fashion. Then I first initiate the tool by saying that, okay, please stick to only the articles or only the facts around a particular type of fashion, a particular type of culture, a particular type of art. And then we slowly introduce the tool to the artists we are specifically interested in, or the art from specific geographical locations that we are interested in. So by doing this, by communicating with the tool, by setting expectations, by setting boundaries with the tools, we can minimize the hallucinations, in turn getting results that are much more accurate and backed by actual references and citations, unlike the false citations and references that ChatGPT and other such tools tend to give at such times. So using ChatGPT like tools for research is not always a very wise decision, especially when you have so many other tools that are built on research data and validated for research purposes. But if at all you decide to use ChatGPT for some simple requirements around your research, then master prompt engineering before you go ahead and actually do that. So this face on the screen has become pretty synonymous with ChatGPT and the AI ecosystem per se. For those of you who do not recognize him, this is Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. OpenAI released ChatGPT in November 2022, and in November 2023, which kind of marked the first anniversary for ChatGPT, Sam and his team decided, okay, because the world was still reeling under the wonderful things that ChatGPT could do, and these guys thought, okay, let's up the game a bit and add a few more features to make it all the more interesting. And they did this in what was known as the Dev Day. And two features were talked about the most and are also being used quite extensively now. So one of the features is something called as custom GPTs. So custom GPTs are basically your own personalized versions of chat GPTs, wherein you can do all this priming, all the sequential prompting, all the priming goes into the building of these GPTs so that by default, these GPTs know what exactly you are talking about. So say, for instance, to give a very simple layman example, I say Apple to ChatGPT. ChatGPT cannot really realize which apple am I talking about. Am I talking about the fruit apple, or am I talking about Steve Jobs and all his wonderful gadgets, or his company basically? So what if I built a GPT, a specific chat GPT that only deals with fruits? Say I'm a researcher working on fruits, working on maybe growing fruits on the moon or so, and now I want this chat GPT to focus only on fruits, leave out all the noise that comes out when it takes into account Steve Jobs, Apple, and all his iPhone and gadgets and so on. So building such custom GPTs helps you to reduce the noise, focus on what you want, get better results, get more accurate results than these general Gen AI tools. So this definitely garnered a lot of attention when it was announced in the last November. So the second addition to ChatGPT features is something called the GPT Store. Just like how you download apps from your Apple Store or from your Android Play Store, you get to use customized GPTs that were built by someone else, but then are being made available on this GPT Store. So to access these two features, you cannot do it on the free version of GPT. You'll have to go for the pro version, which costs around $25 a month, I believe. The free version runs on GPT 3.5, and the pro version will run on 4.0, which is a huge leap from 3.5. So that is why tools like Gemini and Microsoft Copilot especially are considered to be much more robust than the free version of ChatGPT, because they also lean on the GPT-4 frameworks. So what are these Gen AI tools at their core? So these are what are known as large language models, which are artificial intelligence that learn from existing content, process the content in certain specific ways, and then try to bring you the answers based on the instructions, the prompts that you give. Yeah. So the problem with artificial intelligence tools is that they are not per se creative. They cannot create something out of nothing. So for them to create something, they need a set of base material. So I am a huge ARR fan. I'm from the South, you all, and ARR happens to be one of my favorite musician. So I can build GPTs that can create music that sounds like AR Rahman's, but then for it to create music that sounds like A.R. Rahman's, I'll have to give it a lot of base material from which it can learn. It is not sufficient that I just give the style, just mention that it has to be novel. So novel is not something that these Gen AI tools are really good with. So once you give them certain patterns to learn from, they can understand the patterns, especially when it is in the form of text, and then they understand what word comes after what. That's all they basically do. They don't understand the context, they just understand the patterns, and then they try to bring back words in certain patterns which are not per se copied, but then they are mostly learned, inspired, and adapted from existing content. So, in the conventional sense, AI tools, they are not creative, and they depend on data that were created by humans over the past decades. So that inherently brings out a lot of issues because we humans are highly biased creatures. The moment someone walks into a room, we have so many judgments on them. Even before they open their mouth, they express their opinions. It could be based on political differences, gender differences, class differences, religion, region, you name it. We have a bias, not specific to India. This is a bias that is spread across all of the human population. And we, knowingly or unknowingly, have embedded all these biases into the data that we have created over the past several decades. And when an AI tool looks at the data that we provide, be it textual, be it visual, it cannot understand bias, but rather it looks at these biases, it sees a pattern, it sees a bias repeated quite a number of times. It recognizes these biases as patterns, picks them up because it is good with pattern recognition and amplification of patterns and bringing it back to us. So it picks up these patterns, amplifies it, and it throws it right back at our faces, actually leading to a lot of introspection in the way that we have generated data over these decades. One of the examples in point are these set of images, which were created by an AI tool called Midjourney, I believe. So Midjourney belongs to these class of tools where all you have to do is just give a textual prompt, as in describe the image that you want using words, and then the tool converts these words or this description into a proper composite image. So this user here had given very simple prompts. So what does a typical prisoner look like? What does such a professional look like? And the tool had come up with such amazing composite images. Look at them for the first time, and wow, that makes life pretty easier for most of us. And we are happy. But then take a pause, take a breath, and then look at these images uh, closely once again. And then let's assume that we are sitting somewhere in the US. Even then, do you think all prisoners would look like that? Or to rephrase my question, are all prisoners black? How many of you would have the opportunity to be treated by a nurse who looks like that? Yeah, would be nice. But then the right question to ask is, why should a nurse look a certain way? Why should a cleaner look something completely different? The user definitely did not introduce these biases because the prompts that they gave are pretty clean. So where did this bias, where did this polarization exactly happen? Has happened majorly because this tool has learned what a prisoner or what a certain professional looks like from all the existing images. A simple Google search will give you so many advertisements, so many flyers with very biased images for each of these professionals, and it has looked at the AI tool has looked at sufficient number of such biased images to pick up these biases as actual patterns, rules, and has applied it to these images. And this is also a reason why we should be cautious with AI. So before we embark on this short journey of getting introduced to a handful of tools that can help you with research writing and publishing, it is important to understand and acknowledge that AI is complex, it's multi-layered, it's evolving every single day, and we humans really do not understand all parts of this evolution. That in itself calls for a lot of caution around the use and also the development of these AI tools, and how much of autonomy we actually confer on these tools is also something we should really renegotiate. So when we look at a researcher's life, be it a faculty or otherwise, a major part of their time is spent around reading science, writing science, correcting science, submitting it, and doing everything around these aspects. What if we can give you tools, AI tools that can make this part of your life easier, less time consuming, so that you have much more energy and time to do the rest of your professional duties and also spend sufficient time on your personal life. So this thought will be the underlying theme for the rest of the presentation, wherein I have picked up a handful of say 9 to 10 different aspects that comes around scientific writing and publishing. And for each of these aspects, I'll be introducing a handful of tools, one or more tools in most of the cases, that can make it pretty easier. The first step where AI tools can be used in your research process is in literature search and review. And when you say literature, literature encompasses pretty much everything, every kind of documentation that has happened before you entered into the field, before you uh, start doing your research. So this could be something as rigid, as formal as a journal article. They could be primary sources, secondary sources, or loosely put tertiary sources like Wikipedia, blog posts, news articles, and so on. So when you start your research, when you write a paper, you are expected to know everything that has been published before you started writing. At least most of them, at least the significant articles. Just finding out these significant articles is a task in itself. And anytime we talk about literature, we talk about a list of references in a paper, we tend to visualize them as independent units. Okay, so when I say I have 50 references in my paper, you visualize it as 50 different papers. Okay, paper 4, paper 10, paper 12, paper 18, paper 40, and so on. But in reality, these papers, they are not silos, but they are interconnected with each. So how are they connected to each other? One of the simplest connections is through the reference citation networks. So anytime you read a scientific article, a journal published article, for instance, or sometimes even on blog posts, you have something called references. And just by the virtue of these references, a journal article, an original article, for instance, is already connected to 30, 50 other articles that were published before it. And say we are talking about an article published in 2017, then over the past 5, 6 years, this article would have been cited by at least 10 more articles or so. So these form the forward citation networks. So just by tracing the references and citations, you already have around 50, 60 references, 50, 60 papers that form a network with this particular paper of interest. And in each of these papers could also be interlinked to one or more of the papers on the same list. So this all together, when you look at the interactions, just even with the references and citations, you have multiple networks, multiple lines running between them, multiple connections that you can actually visualize. So this is where literature mapping tools or visualizing tools like litmaps can help you quickly find these related articles through the reference citation network to start off with, but then they also have other algorithms. So these literature mapping tools, they don't only look at the references and citations, they can also look at the thematic connections. They can also look at the co-authorship connections. So Litmaps, for instance, runs on 3 algorithms, and you have the liberty to pick an algorithm. So you can go in for the simple reference networks. You can go in for the thematic mapping. You can also go in for the co-authorship mapping. So how does this exactly work? So if I have to find a set of literature on a topic that I am interested in, all I have to do is just start with the few keywords. Yeah. And say, for instance, I'm someone who's interested in this thing called intermittent fasting. So after the keto diet, after your high fat, low carb diet, the Mediterranean diet, the recent happening health style change happens to be intermittent fasting. And I do believe in intermittent fasting in real life as well. So say I'm also interested in it as a researcher. All I have to do is use a few keywords. So just click on get started, use a few keywords. I used intermittent fasting and liver disease. And then the tool litmaps basically gives me a handful of articles to start off with. It gives me a handful of articles. I can pick one article out of it, and then litmaps builds a map, a literature map with the top 20 most relevant articles. So this was an article of my choice to start off with. So this is called the seed article. It is this seed article which is used as the source to build on this map of 20 articles. And then now when I want to expand on this network, I have an option called Discover, which will help me expand on the network. But then this tool tells me that these 20 articles are the top relevant articles or the most connected articles in terms of references even. So I cannot take the word of the AI for on its face value. I want to see for myself what each of these articles have to really offer before I decide to add them to my literature library. For that, say I'm interested in this paper called Patterson 2017. All I have to do is just click on the circle. A left panel opens with the abstract, and the title of the paper is a hyperlink which will lead you to the journal page, where if the full article is available you can actually read the article, and the DOI link also takes you to the journal page. This is where if you already have a reference management tool like EndNote, Zotero, or Mendeley in place, you can quickly save your article into your reference manager just in 2 clicks, 3 clicks, or so on. So Litmaps also offers you a library where you can store your articles. Google Scholar also offers you a profile where you can store your literature library. So these are all great places when you're trying to build your literature, trying to add your papers. But once you're done adding papers, at the end of the day, you want your entire literature and reference management tool, because that is what will make it easier for you to add references, add citations, and generate automatic reference list, be it with your MS Word documents or even when you're using LaTeX documents. It's pretty easy to add reference lists once you have all your literature library in the reference management tool. So now that I have 20 articles, I can use this feature called Discover. So Litmaps has undergone slight changes in the interface in the past week, but the working of it still essentially remains the same. So here, all your 20 articles can be used as the input to generate articles in the outer circle. So the inner circle is the inputs, outer circle is the additional articles that you receive. And this secondary search, so the initial seed map was created just based on one article, but this secondary search is where the articles that you find are not based just on one of the inputs, but these secondary articles are linked to more than one article in your input or in your inner circle. You get to also edit what articles stay in the inner circle, what can be removed from the inputs, and so on. So that gives you a control as to how you want the search to go on. Doing the search over and over several times can quickly lead you to have 400, 500 articles vetted by you by in form of reading the abstract or title in under 2 days or so. If you're quick enough in doing it, then accumulating 400, 500 articles in 2 days to 3 days time is pretty simple with tools like Litmaps. So Litmaps is not the only tool that can help you with building your literature libraries, understanding the connections between your literature, but there are also other tools like connected papers. In addition to what we saw in Litmaps, at least on the map feature, connected papers also gives you a list. It basically ranks your paper as in what is the most related paper, the first topmost related paper, the second, the third, and so on. So connected papers gives you a rank if you're interested in that. Then you have this tool called Insightful. Here again, you get literature maps, but in addition to that, Insightful also gives you a lot of insights. What kind of insights? It tells you who are the top authors in your field of interest. Which are the top journals that publish the most articles, most impactful articles that have the highest citations? Who are the upcoming authors? So the top authors are those who have quite high citation numbers, quite a number of publications. Upcoming authors are those who have just a handful of publications in the area, but then these articles have garnered a lot of citations, a lot of footfall and impact, and you have a separate list of upcoming authors. Then you have top journals, you have similar journals. Maybe the top journals are sometimes too highly rated, and getting your papers into them might be difficult. Then you all have an auxiliary list called these similar journals, which are also good track journals, but then much more accessible, I would say. And then it also tells you which institutions have the highest number of publications. So how can this information really help you? So you have a say you have a article ready, you want to find the topmost journal that publishes in your area, just put your keywords into Insightful, you can quickly identify the top journals. Say you want to have take a sabbatical, take off from teaching, go spend 2 years abroad to hone your research skills to or to advance the research that you're already doing here. Just put your keywords again to Insightful, maybe play around with a few keywords, and you'll know the top institutions where the majority of the work in the area is happening, and you want to be at the top institutions when you're going to spend 2 years away working on your projects. And then you have this tool called Research Rabbit. It again creates a literature map, but I have added it to the list for just one reason, that Research Rabbit by default is linked to this reference manager called Zotero. So here, when you want to use Research Rabbit to build your maps, you can quickly import your library in Zotero. Say you have already started your project, you have 10, 20 papers in Zotero, and now you suddenly come to know about Research Rabbit and you want to build on your existing library. You don't want to manually move each one of the papers into Research Rabbit. You can quickly import, just one click, import your papers from Zotero, use all of the papers, all of the 20 papers as the input, and then build your library in Research Rabbit. Keep doing it for several layers. And once you are done collecting your 200 papers, 300 papers, whatever is required for your research, just 2 more clicks, you can export all of these papers into Zotero. This makes it pretty easier for you to interact or work around with both your literature search tool as well as your reference manager. So that is one added advantage of Research Rabbit. So when we wanted to find literature, the old school way, the non-AI way, then creating or designing what are known as these key strings became very important. Going back to the same analogy of Apple, it was important that you gave the right keywords with the right connectors to the tool so that you can get the right papers. And this in itself took some skill, took some time. So you had to do some base reading, do your own homework to come up with the right keywords and the key strings. What if you can completely skip on this step? So say you are reading an article that is of interest to you, you come across a paragraph that is very core to the work that you're trying to do. You don't have to figure out keywords, you don't have to figure out key strings. You can just copy paste the paragraph into a tool. The tool will figure out the keywords for you. It will do your literature search and come back with the top literature relevant to this particular paragraph. We would be thankful. Would have been thankful. Especially I, for one, definitely wish we had such tools during my PhD days. But those of you who are doing it now are definitely lucky because you have tools like Sourcely, where all you have to do is just copy paste the paragraph that you're interested in. The free version allows up to 300 characters. So most of the tools that I have curated on this talk, they are freemium tools. They offer some of their features for free, but then when you want to use them for a much larger amount of content or for an extended period of time, then you will have to go for the pro version, but at least they let you test the tools for free to a certain extent. So here you can just copy paste the paragraph, whichever interested you, and then say find sources. The tool pretty much finds your sources for you. This also has a tangential application. So say you have written a draft of your paper and for 2 or 3 sentences, you are missing the references. So you missed adding citations, references to a few of the sentences. Quickly copy paste the sentences into Sourcely. It will give you a set of references. Figure out which is the most relevant one. You can add your citations to it. So Sourcely initially gives you around 10, 15 papers, but then you can always add on, ask for more papers. So the next few tools They are touted as alternatives to Google Scholar, but then they are also very good academic alternatives to ChatGPT. So why not just use ChatGPT for academic questions, hallucinations, lack of citations, and sometimes wrong citations. Though ChatGPT has come a long way since its inception, it still has its own set of problems because ChatGPT has to deal with so many different things. It was not built only for research, only for scientific information. Unlike that, consensus like tools, they were trained on research data. They were built for the research community, which means they are much more specific, they're much more conservative, don't hallucinate. They stick to the facts, give you the accurate references and citations in majority of the cases, even though they also still have some beta features going on for them. So there is still a slight chance for a little margin of error, but otherwise they are way better than your general Gen AI tools. So when I ask a question to consensus not only gives me a summary of the answer, but then it also gives me a list of papers based on which this summary was created. So this adds to the credibility of the summary. And these summaries can also be copy pasted directly into your zero drafts, your first drafts or so, and you can add references, citations, and then later on, as you keep working on your 100th drafts and more, these basically get rewritten sufficiently enough to not show up as AI generated content. We'll be talking about that later. And anytime you ask a yes or no question to tools like consensus or to consensus specifically, it gives you something called this consensus meter, which tells me how many of the papers say yes to my question, how much of the literature disagree with me, how many of them are not really sure if my question is valid. So this pretty much tells me, how these how the literature is actually what is the direction that the results we have so far are headed towards. So that helps me fine tune my research questions, because at the end of the day, good papers come from good research, and good research can only happen when you have these nice questions, very key questions, important questions, questions that are of interest to more than just you and your group, and questions that are also novel, for instance. And this kind of validation you can do with consensus. And then we have this tool called Semantic Scholar. It looks, feels, works exactly like Google Scholar. The only difference is Google Scholar is based on keywords. Semantic Scholar is based on semantics or themes, which means it looks beyond keywords. It looks for connections beyond just words. And that helps this tool to cut down on the noise much more. Instead of having 10,000 papers, out of which 6,000 are not relevant, maybe Semantic Scholar, if you really ask using the right keywords, it can cut down the additional 600 papers, or at least 400 of the papers, and leave you only with 600 papers, which is a good start, I would say, saves a lot of your time in skimming through all of these papers. And then you have tools like Elicit. This is pretty much similar to consensus. When you ask a question, Elicit gives you a summary. It adds citations, it adds references to the summary. In addition, it also helps you kind of create anatomies of these papers for easy comparison. So how does this happen? It basically looks like an Excel sheet with columns for each sections of your paper. So you can add columns. You can also customize the columns that you want. The tool by default gives you around 10 columns or so. So like the abstract summary, the intervention, outcomes measured. It also gives you columns for metadata like the journal, which journal was each paper published in. And that gives you a quick idea of which journal has most of the publications in this particular area of interest. Or say you want to understand the research questions that were asked in each of the papers, you can just add a column called research questions. Research questions from all the papers now appear in one single column. You can quickly compare between the research questions. You want to find the research gaps, then add a column called research gaps, or add a column called gaps, and then add a column called limitations, maybe between the information pooled under the research gaps and limitations. You have sufficient information to design your future experiments based on what has been discovered, what has been presented already, and what is still lacking. You can also get these metadata like funding sources, for instance. So add a column called funding source. And if this information is presented in the paper, you will have the name of the funding agency. Say you have a grant proposal ready and now you want to know whom exactly to approach for the funding. Where should you be submitting your grant proposal to? This column will tell you the different options that you have based on the top papers for the particular keywords that you have provided the tool with, which could really come in handy. So good scientific writing rests on three pillars. The first is the science itself, the results, and the second is the language, formal, clear, and concise language, and then the time factor. So did you publish it at the right time? So all this, among these three, if I have to pick one of the pillars as the most important, then I would say your research questions or your actual results, actual research will form one of the strongest pillars of good scientific writing. And this can happen only when you have good research questions. That is where AI tools like ResearchKit can help you craft these very compelling, all-encompassing research questions that are also novel, that are also relevant, so that your research is robust and that will lead you to have good manuscripts, good thesis later on. This tool here is run by a very small team. It is not free, does not offer any trial runs. You'll have to go for the actual pro version if you want to really try it out. And then comes this requirement once you are slightly down into your career, you have sufficient expertise and sufficient number of papers, then you have to write what are known as these review articles. So review articles basically establish you as the expert in a particular field. So these review articles are your perspectives that don't only rely on results that were published, papers that were published, but also comes from your experience on all the non-published information, all the discussions that went on behind the screens at conferences, at committee meetings, at symposiums and whatnot, right? Writing review articles is sometimes much more difficult than writing an original article, simply because of the quantum of information you have to handle, and also because unlike original articles which have the results to anchor them, these reviews, they are like headless chickens which can run in all directions, and just rounding them in one direction and taking them forward is a task in itself. All this is complicated 100x more when you're trying to write what are known as systematic reviews, where you have to arrange literature very systematically, and every single point has to be documented. So what are the keywords you used to collect literature? What was the inclusion criteria? How did you exclude certain literature? Was there a time break, a time boundary set? So systematic reviews are a whole new beast in themselves. And that is where AI tools like Ryan can help you. So Ryan was a platform for systematic literature review with, now they have enhanced it with all your AI components, which makes it all the more better. It gives you a one-stop space where you can do a lot much around systematic literature and also collaborate with people when you're doing such a humongous task as a systematic literature. Reading and understanding scientific documents is difficult, majorly because papers are not written for beginners. They are written for experts, and they assume that you have a certain amount of knowledge when you are actually coming to read the paper, which means some parts of the paper do not make sense to beginners. If you're stuck somewhere like that, then you should be looking out for this tool called Skyspace Copilot. So Skyspace is a huge AI platform which offers a lot much more than the Copilot feature. But for this part of the presentation, we are interested in this feature called Copilot. So here, all I have to do is just upload my PDF version of the manuscript, for instance, and say, as I'm reading the paper, I do not understand this section of the abstract. All I have to do is just highlight, drag my mouse and highlight the section, and a pop-up comes in wherein the tool offers me the option to ask for a summary of this section. With these summaries can again go into your zero drafts, or say you do not understand the terminology, you don't, this is like something from middle of the ocean, and you want a roadmap to understand how people have exactly arrived at this point, then ask for an explanation. And because this sits within the Skyspace platform, you can also ask for related papers, not papers related to the entire paper you're reading, but rather the tool finds you papers that are related only to this section of the paper, which makes your life much more easier, helps you interact and understand your literature better. By default, the tool also answers 10, 12 questions that it believes the readers might have. But say you have questions that are much more in depth or much beyond these 12 questions, you have this chat option where you can chat with the tool just like how you chat with ChatGPT. Just that Copilot will answer all your questions from within the information provided within this one single paper that gives you an opportunity to interact intimately with the paper, understand the paper and perspectives better. So Skyspace Copilot is not the only tool that can do this. You also have other options like Chat PDF, for instance. You have Perplexity.ai, which can also help you interact with PDF version of your papers. And in Skyspace Copilot, you can also interact with the math as in the equations and also tables when you do not understand the data or information provided. So reading as a habit has definitely lost its shape. We are all, as a generation, more interested in watching Instagram reels and much lesser in actually reading blog posts. We are even okay with audiobooks. We love listening to podcasts on a journey, on a quick commute to your office or so. So what if we could also listen to papers? That can save us a lot of time. It will also give us an additional way in which we can understand papers, add reading papers to your everyday chores, add listening to papers to your everyday commute. That can actually be exciting and time saving, especially to the multitaskers among us. So one of the first tools that can help you is called Speechify. So here Speechify is not a tool that was built for reading research papers, but then it can do a good job with reading docs, PDFs, emails, and so on. Therefore, it is a good assistant to have across your different reading requirements, especially if you're a faculty. You can listen to assessments and then have another tool where you can give all your comments and then just convert your comments into textual format and hand it over to the students. 5, 6 assignments for every commute. This makes assessing the assessments and the essays and all the student work much more easier. And of course, you can also listen to papers. Then you have tools like listening.io, which is built for listening to research papers. Therefore, it does a much better job at understanding the structure of the document and maybe reading it out in a much better way. People tend to be biased towards listening.io for those reasons. And once you are done reading these papers, then comes a requirement where you have to create summaries or notes out of these papers. And when you write your own manuscripts, it is not that no, you cannot follow this format where people tend to do this, right? So XYZ et al. 2020 said so and so. And then ABC et al. 2022 said so and so. CDE et al. In 2024 said so and so. So when you write papers, when you do any form of science writing, the focus cannot be on the author. The focus cannot be on the research group. The focus has to be on the science. So focus on the science and then the references, citations come later on. And it is all the more better when you summarize results from multiple papers and then cite multiple papers for one theme. The focus is on the theme and much lesser on the research groups that arrived at this particular conclusion or developed this particular theory and whatnot. For this, the first step is to summarize individual papers and then to create secondary summaries where you summarize multiple papers which give you the same results and then kind of collate all of this information into a single sentence, 2 sentences, or so on. A tool that can help you summarize papers is called Paper Digest. So here, Paper Digest basically converts your 5,000 word paper or so into a small summary that can be read in under 3 minutes. The catch here is for this tool to be able to summarize the paper has to be available. Most scientific papers are not available because they are put behind a paywall in a subscription-based model. Therefore, the tool works better for publishers like MDPI, PLOS, where the articles are available open access. But when you're trying to retrieve papers from Elsevier or so, then that gets a bit tricky, but still you can give a try. This tool is no longer being maintained by the developers. They are trying to come out with a better tool, I believe. They're working on something which they have not revealed what exactly they are doing, but it still works for majority of the papers. All you have to do is just find the link for the PDF version of the paper that you're interested in summarizing, and then say digest. You have a summary, which is not perfect. But then between this summary and the abstract of a paper, you can at least decide if the paper is worth reading in full, it's worth investing your time in. And these summaries sometimes can also go into your zero drafts, which you can edit later. A second tool that can help you summarize your papers is known as Scholarcy. So Scholarcy also has this nice tangential application wherein, say, you have a PDF version of your notes, a document version of your notes, or you have your own paper which you want to convert into a presentation for a conference presentation, or say you want to go give a invited talk wherein you want to present your own paper, you want to present your paper in a classroom full of students. In such cases, you can upload the document, create something called the summary flashcards, and download the summary flashcards as a PPT. That gives you your skeletal PPT in under a minute or two, and then you can pick out the draft work for yourself. So now these are the tools wherein you can dictate your notes. These are your personal assistants, wherein say you're commuting and then suddenly you have some thoughts, or say you're commuting, you're assessing one of your students' works, and now you want to add some comments that have to be sent to the students. You can just have these apps on your phone, just speak into them. These apps not just convert your voice notes into good text, but then they also clean up. So tools like listening.io, for instance, AudioPen, for instance. Speak Notes also has this feature, but AudioPen does this much better, or there's a preference for AudioPen sometimes, wherein they pick out your notes, they clean up your notes a bit, and then bring it back to you in a nice textual form, which you can have a quick review, copy paste into your email, then just send it off to your students as the your review comments for the assignment or rounds. Anytime we talk about publishing articles in journals, especially, there are so many requirements. A journal article is not just about the main text, there's a lot of front matter, right from the title. You have short titles, you have corresponding author information, word counts, abbreviations, and whatnot. And then you have a lot of back matter. There are so many declarations, conflicts of interest, funding statements, ethical statements. Now you have to declare the use of AI. That is another statement, author contributions. So a paper is complete only when you have all of these sections. Though most of the journals are slowly moving into what are known as free format submissions, or your paper your way, wherein you don't have to format your manuscript exactly in a particular style, including all the necessary components is still a prerequisite for moving your paper into peer review. So this is where tools like PaperPulse Manuscript Check can check your manuscripts for close to 40 different criteria to ensure that your paper does not get desk rejected. Desk rejection is definitely not something that we enjoy. We all aim to move our papers at least into the peer review process. Once we cross that the first firewall, then things get a bit more easier. So this tool can be a great assistant to help you exactly achieve that. And PaperPal is from Cactus Communications. That's the company that I work for. Okay, and this feature is free, at least as of now. So your paper is checked for a lot of things, right from the author's email ID to the validity of your references, connection between your references and citations, the structure of your manuscript. And also, because PaperPal is a language correction tool to start off with, you also get a lot of language suggestions. And just below this report, you'll find that PaperPal has your manuscript ready with all the grammatical errors highlighted with suggestions. Now you can download this paper with suggestions, incorporate the suggestions that will enhance your language, but this aspect is not free. You'll have to pay a fee depending on your paper length or so, and depending on the suggestions that you get before you can actually access it and use it. And then comes the requirements where you want to create images. So in papers, there are two kinds of images. One is where you have data and you have to create images, or rather convert data into an image. And then you have cases where you have an idea and this idea has to be converted into an image for your introduction section, for your literature review section, or for your graphical abstracts, or to submit cover images for your journals. This is where AI tools like Midjourney can come in handy. Midjourney is no longer free, but then you have so many other alternatives to Midjourney, some of which are free, some of which are at least offered at a very nominal price. You could test them out. So in these tools, all you have to do is just describe the image you have visualized in your head in all its fine details, the type, the color, the composition, you give all fine details, and the tool understands your description, your prompt, and converts, or rather builds a image based on the prompt that you have provided. So this is an image that I created using a simple prompt and using a tool that is familiar to most of us, Canva. So Canva has been around for around 10 years. It recently introduced something called Magic Studio. So in Magic Studio, most of you already know that Canva has these nice templates, presentation templates. Say you have picked a free template from Canva. You have an idea for these slides, what goes into your first slide, your second slide, and so on. But then maybe you need more help in actually framing them into words. All you have to do is pick out this Magic Studio option, give a small prompt as to what content has to go into slide one, and Canva Magic Studio gives you the pointers or the text that can go into your slide. Now that the textual content is taken care of, you want to add a relevant image. You cannot always find the image on Google. So you go back to Magic Studio, describe the image that you have in your head, and Canva tends to convert this prompt into an image. Or say you want something more than an image, you want a video, you want a small 3D animation or something, that can also be made possible with Canva Magic Studio. So here I have tried describing myself in a session. It is not exactly accurate, but I guess Canva did a good job considering that all this happened in less than 1 minute or so. Now, this tool called Inkscape is not an AI tool per se, but if you are someone looking for good vector drawing tools that come free, then Inkscape is a tool that you should definitely check. Or say you have flow diagrams, flow charts, mind maps, anything where there are a lot of blocks that has to be connected to each other in different ways, then try out eDrawMax, which has a lot many templates to pick from. You can just pick these templates, add your content, and your flow charts, flow diagrams are ready in no time. You can, of course, do this with PowerPoint, just that it is pretty painful to keep arranging things, keep thinking about colors, color schemes, thinking about the thickness of the arrows and so on, and PowerPoint. So all that is here done for you in pretty aesthetic, appealing ways. You can just add the content. The first ever a tool that most of us came across when it comes to image manipulation is Photoshop. Since then, Adobe has been definitely one of the uncontested market leaders in imaging. And that's why if you have access to Illustrator, I guess most of your requirements are already taken care of. You don't have to really worry. Journals are increasingly asking what are known as these graphical abstracts, wherein you have to convert your abstract or present your textual abstract in the form of one unifying graphic. So this graphic is not an image that is a part of the manuscript, but it is a novel, all encompassing an overview kind of image with textual components also that brings out one or two key results, key aspects of your manuscript. And these graphical abstracts are really important. They're gaining a lot of traction because they bring in a lot of footfall to your papers. At the end of the day, journals want citations. Authors want citations. Your institutions want citations because citations are what are used for most of the quantitative metrics that we use today, starting from the impact factor of a journal, the H index, the I10 index for authors, and anytime you're applying for any of your accreditations, then again, for the publication or the research component, citations do have a huge impact. And getting more citations is something that you should focus on as authors. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to add a good eye-catching graphical abstract. So one of the tools you can check out is called Tidbit. And then you have this tool called Deep Dream Generator. For almost all of these tools, you have very good YouTube videos which can help you learn the tool, understand the different functionalities, and go about making it. And then comes this question where you require to visualize data where you have to do some statistical analysis, convert data into a graphic, and with minimal human intervention. So where you can talk in human language, you don't have to be a statistical nerd to figure this out. Most of the business analytics tools, they develop as your visualization tools for research data as well. And one of the tools that has got a lot of interest, that has elicited a lot of interest, is WAI. So if you have data and if you're trying to visualize this data for any of your research manuscripts, for your conferences, or any such requirements, then definitely try out W.ai. Then comes this process called managing your references. I personally feel we do not need an AI tool for this, because we already have good tools like Zotero, Mendeley, and you have EndNote, for instance. Though EndNote is not completely free, Zotero is a great open source tool. Mendeley is at least free as of now, though it is owned by Elsevier. They have not gone into the pro version. I hope it stays so for some time at least. So what if you have not used a reference manager and now you're stuck with a manuscript or a grant with, especially a manuscript with 50, 60 references and corresponding citations, and now you have to convert all of these references from one style to the other. This happens when your manuscript gets rejected by one journal and you want to submit the manuscript to journal 2, which has a completely different reference style. So in such cases, you can try out this AI tool called Tricks. So Tricks is not a reference manager, which means it cannot take care of your citations. Your in-text citations is still your headache. You'll have to do it manually, but at least it can help you quickly restructure the references in your reference list from one style to the other. It just has a handful of reference styles, but you'll always find a style that is very close to what your journal requires, and then the final small corrections can be done manually. Then comes this requirement where we have to check for the language we use in a paper, and also work around word count reductions, especially in sections like the abstract, for instance. Most journals which do not even have a word count for the main text, they tend to restrict the number of words in an abstract. So in such cases, having a good paraphrasing tool, good language tool can come in handy. And one of the most popular tools is Quillbot. Quillbot is the third most accessed AI tool in the last year, only after ChatGPT and Character.ai. So Quillbot, though the interface looks pretty simple, it functions pretty well, I would say. Though they call themselves a paraphraser, the tool is much more than just a paraphraser. It can help you with grammar, it can help you with plagiarism, you can co-write, it can even translate some of the common languages like Spanish, German, Japanese, Chinese, and so on. But the catch here is Quillbot offers very little for free. Being the leaders of this segment, they don't really have to offer things for free before people are willing to pay for the pro version. But to start off with, if you have very small amounts of text that require paraphrasing or rewriting, then Quillbot is great. If you're looking for alternatives that sometimes offer slightly more leverage in terms of content, then you should check out Virtue. Virtue was this very limited tool that worked on converting sentences from with one tone, one kind of a language, and so on. But recently, Virtue was revamped with a lot of AI features that makes it really interesting. Then we have this tool called Trinka. Trinka is from Enago. Enago is the direct competitor for Cactus Communications, and Trinka is a direct competitor for the tool called Paperpad. So here, Trinka again offers you almost everything that Quillbot offers in a very nicer interface. So I like to call Trinka as Quillbot on steroids, because it is appealing, easy to navigate, and also it has these small tutorial videos wherein you can teach yourself to use certain features like the citation checker feature, for instance, before you can start using the tool. And then we have this small tool called Writeful. Most of these language tools, they sit as a plugin within your MS Word. And on Writeful, I like two of its features. One is called Sentence Palette. So this comes in pretty handy when you're stuck in your writer's block. So you are writing some part of your manuscript, you're stuck in a section, you do not know how to introduce a result, how to introduce a hypothesis, how to introduce a contradictory argument, and so on. So that is where you can pick up these the palette from Writeful, which suggests certain phrases for every section of your manuscript, right? So you can, once you see these phrases, you either can pick up these phrases or they give you ideas on how to structure your sentences. This helps you quickly break the writer's block and continue writing your content. The second feature that I like about Writeful is something called title generator. Sometimes you write a piece, be it an essay, be it a news article or a complete journal article, and once you have written it, it's like you go blank. You cannot think of a good title, or any title you come up with sounds pretty redundant and not exactly interesting. So that is when you can use this title generation feature from Rightful. PaperPal also offers a title generation feature. So use one of these features, generate multiple draft titles, and that will give you an idea of how to frame your own title. You can mix and match and come up with your own title, or these titles could inspire you to come up with a novel title and so on. So with the introduction of so many AI tools, the question is, how many tools should I subscribe to? How many places should I run to before I can finish my manuscripts? And the team at Cactus definitely did hear this question. And that is where they came up with something called Researcher.life, which is like this one-stop solution with several of the tools listed at just a single place. Yeah. And here you have a literature tool called Art Discovery. Researcher.life has an imaging tool called Mind the Graph, which basically works on templates. It has a lot of template images. You can pick out the templates for using keywords, arrange them, add words, and then when you go for the pro version, you can also get the license by default, which will help you use these images directly into your manuscripts pretty seamlessly. And you have PaperPal, which will be a language component, which also has a Gen AI writing feature. And then PaperPal recently tied up with the plagiarism checking tool, uh, which is pretty famous, but they don't want to be named for some reason. The tool starts with T, ends with N. So you can be sure that you have a good plagiarism checker in place. So everything from your literature search to your plagiarism to your images gets taken care of within this tool. They also have a slight link to Zotero, though Zotero is not directly a part of Researcher.life. So Zotero is, anyways, it's a open access tool. It's a free tool. You can always embed it wherever you want. Yeah. Once you're done writing your manuscripts, once you're done preparing your lessons, once you're ready for that conference, then comes this practice where you'll have to actually create presentations. PowerPoint has been a great tool, has stayed with us for decades, just that it has got a tad bit old and boring. We all know the animations, transitions. And if you want to pep up your presentation slightly above the scales of PowerPoint, then you should try out Prezi. So Prezi has all these very interactive, very moving components as templates, and adding your information and your images into these templates kind of make your presentation come alive, make it more interactive, and keep your audience's attention there. Canva needs no introduction. For those of you who have never tried it before, today this is your sign from the universe that you should try this amazing tool that offers so much for free, even though it has a lot more under the pro version for which you'll have to go for a subscription. And then you have these truly AI presentation makers like Dectopus, where all you have to do is just give a small prompt describing the area of your presentation, the core of your presentation, and then answer a few questions. What is the length of your presentation? 45 minutes, 1 hour. How do you want to sound, like an expert, like a peer? Who are your audiences? Are they students? Are they your peers? And so on, like one or two more questions. Hardly 4, 5 questions. And once you answer them in under 1 minute or so, the tool gives you an entire deck. It creates the content on your slides, it creates the images on your slides, and it brings it back to you. And you can just take the deck, start presenting. If it is a very, if it's a very redundant topic, a topic that is well talked about on the internet, you hardly have to make few changes to the slides. Once you know how to play around and create the right prompts, even when you're talking about your own science, own research, then most of the introductory slides and the concluding slides can still come from Dectopus, and the hardcore slides, your hardcore images, content findings can go somewhere in between. We do have these magic tools that can write entire papers for you. And one of the first tools is called Jenny. All they need is a good prompt describing the core subject of your paper, your essay, your article, and then they create an outline to start off with, and then they start writing. The tool pretty much starts writing one line after the other. So just watching this tool write is sufficient entertainment for a day, I would say. So get your cup of coffee, get your cup of popcorn, place yourselves in front of the screen, and then assign tasks to Jane. And just look at the way it writes, look at the way it interacts with you. You can ask for an opposing argument. You can instruct the tool to write with more depth, write like a certain section of a paper, and the tool just writes. When you go for the free version, you can only check it out for 200 words every 24 hours or so. But then when you go for the pro version, it's pure bliss to just watch this tool write. But don't use this tool to write your final pieces, write your final documents also. So if you cannot use the tool for your scientific writing, why exactly are we introducing the tool? Use this tool as your assistant. So it's a great place to soundboard your ideas. So throw in an idea, ask for alternative arguments, ask for much more in-depth arguments. Keep going at it you until you feel that you have got that skeleton, that template that is going to really work on your own scientific article. So this is a great place to do that. But if you look at it as a tool to write your entire papers, then you're highly mistaken. That can go very, very wrong. PaperPal also has a Gen AI component now called PaperPal Copilot. So here again, you can pretty much write your entire articles. It even asks you the subject, but it has much limitations than Jenny. Jenny is this free-flowing, unrestricted lass going on around the dancing around the grass. But PaperPal is much more restricted, but it is still fun. It is still a great place to uh, soundboard your ideas and get better things. And then comes this requirement where you have to write grants for getting your funding. And here you find a lot many AI tools, especially if you're thinking about social grants, then there are AI tools that work specifically for that with specific structures and so on. So these tools like Hyperwrite, Grantable, so some of them are template-based tools where you have to introduce certain data, certain information into a template form, and then they convert this form into a written proper textual paragraph wise. And then grantable here is something similar to Jenny, where you can kind of put your ideas across, work on them, and then you can even ask for the tool to set your timelines. One interesting thing about Jenny and grantable is that they don't just create text, they also add citations. They add in-text citations to your text, and they also generate the reference list automatically, at least on the pro version in Jenny, and on Grantable, the free version as well, I believe. So this makes it a great place to write your grants. No matter how good your work is, no matter how great those slides are, at the end of the day, when you are on that stage, people are there to listen to you, your perspectives. And if you're not able to communicate your ideas in a way that can reach the audience, then you have lost a bit of the entire process. So this is where you have AI tools that very many AI tools that just Udly, which can help you. They're like your personal speaking coaches or speech coaches, which sit with you on a video call and then listen to you, look at you. They give you suggestions. They tell you if you're using a word too many times, too many pauses, too little pauses, too fast, too slow, something on your body language. And by doing this, over time, you get to have better speeches, connect, engage with your audience in a better way. Now that we have talked about close to 30 plus AI tools, I believe the question is, can I use these tools on my next document, on my next writing assignment? The answer is yes and no. Yes, if you want to use these tools as your assistants, if you do not try to outsource your creative or outsource your writing prowess, then they are great tools. You can go ahead and use them. But if you're looking at them as replacements to yourself as a researcher or as a writer, then I wouldn't say that it's a good idea. Refrain from that would be my advice. So what do these publishers, journals have to say about the use of AI tools? Are they okay with it? It so happened that when ChatGPT was introduced for the first time, some authors thought it would be cool to use ChatGPT to generate large chunks of text and then add ChatGPT as one of the authors. This happened with the Nature Portfolio Journal, I believe, and the editors must have definitely lost sleep for several days, at least before they came up with very strict guidelines. Across publishers, across journals, across fields, you cannot use AI tools to generate huge chunks of text, data, or images, or any other inputs, and unless you explicitly state why it was done so. And in no case can you add ChatGPT or any of the other AI tools as one of the co-authors. Across publishers, they give two main reasons for that. First is that AI tools cannot be held responsible for any of the consequences that arise out of the content they generate and that go into scientific manuscripts. The second is that AI tools do not understand ethics, therefore, they cannot really write or author papers. So, for these two reasons, across publishers, you cannot use AI tools as co-authors and you cannot assign huge tasks to AI without a human supervision. One place where publishers and journals are okay with the use of AI tools is when you use them for your language corrections. So we editors have always existed. We have existed for 2, 3 decades now. We have worked hand in hand with you. So you give the draft, we work on the language, we work on the structure. We sometimes even give you suggestions on how to improve the technical aspects of your manuscript. We format your manuscripts, we write your cover letters, summaries. All this is acceptable by the journal. Sometimes even journals direct you to get the help of a language editor to make your manuscript better before you submit it to them. So when you try to replace us with AI tools, the journals are okay with them. So you use language tools, they're perfectly okay. But anytime you use tools that do anything more than just language corrections, it is important that you declare the use of the AI tool. And most declarations run something like that. This is an example from the publisher called Elsevier, but across publishers, you see a similar statement. Declare the name of the tool, the purpose for which it was used, and also assure the editor, reviewers, and the readers that there was a vetting by a human. There was a human filter applied before the content was actually submitted for publication or so. Anytime you're in doubt, okay, should I disclose it? Should I not disclose it? Anytime there's such a question, always disclose. So that is what publishers want. Disclose. Always err on the side of caution and disclose anything you do with data generation, anything you do with your image creations. Just disclose them. Let the editor take the call of if they're going to allow this in their manuscripts or if they want you to replace it. When you don't disclose, they find out that this is something generated with AI, and then it becomes an ethical breach. Once you disclose, it is just an oversight in most of the cases, which will not lead to a rejection. It will just lead to a small revision request, which is way better. You don't miss out on the chance of publishing with your favorite journal sometimes. Similar to plagiarism check, AI content detection will also become mainstream. Turnitin has already introduced a component for detecting AI content in your manuscripts, though how they do it, how perfect it is a question still, but these tools definitely are evolving. And with the advent of AI content detectors, there came their nemesis, the AI humanizers. So these are basically AI tools that can humanize AI generated content so that AI content detectors do not figure out that this content was actually generated by AI. I know that is pretty confusing, and but they seem to work. They seem to kind of help you circumvent these AI content detectors. But how exactly they do it is still a is an enigma, I would say. So because there are hardly very few differences between an AI generated content and a human generated content. For one thing, this AI generated content is very structured, they're very disciplined, starting perfectly with an introductory comment, concluding with a concluding remark, and so on, and then using these big words which we normally don't use in our everyday sentences. The question I personally always have is what happens when we put a content developed by Shashi Tharoor into one of these AI content detectors? They're going to lose their brains, I believe, because it's pretty difficult, right? So what happens when you pick writing from authors who already write very complex language. And how do these AI detectors, how are they going to really figure out between the AI generated content and the human generated content? Still intrigues me. I'm still trying to figure out how this is going to work. Yeah. And AI is definitely threatening our jobs, our livelihoods. And one example close to home, to Bangalore, to the host institution, is that of this company where at Dukan, right? So on one fine day, the CEO decides, okay, these customer care executives are getting too slow. They are dragging us down. Sack them all, replace it with one chatbot because the chatbot is super efficient. The time comes down, the cost comes down. This could happen to any other field, including teaching. And the introduction of an AI professor by Harvard for one of its computer science courses last semester did not really help things. And yes, maybe teachers do get replaced sometime down the lane. And this brings us to the point where we have to really rethink what faculty bring to the table. So knowledge, students have access to knowledge in so many different ways, but when it comes to ethics, when it comes to the team spirit, when it comes to the empathy component, they don't really have much examples out there. So what is it that faculty bring to the table so that we hold on to this profession at least for slightly longer? And will humans as a race be replaced by AI? Maybe possible, definitely possible. Maybe will not be replaced by robots, but humanoids look like the next step of evolution in the human history, at least as far as I believe, because they bring together the prowess of humans and they bring together the advantages of technology. Maybe we'll all live to see the day when humanoids kind of partially take over the world. The world is split on this question of should we have AI, should we not have AI. On one side, we have these huge supporters. They're all so super ecstatic, and they are like AI is going to change everything. It's going to make our lives easier. And on the other hand, we have all these doomsday predictors and naysayers who want us to stop developing AI, stop AI in its tracks before it runs amok and takes over the world. And interestingly, Elon Musk stands on the side of the naysayers. He's a very vocal opponent of artificial intelligence. But he is Musk. I love him for his resilience and for all his intelligence, but sometimes he can be downright confusing. And one point in to note is that he opposes AI and then he goes on and starts a company called Neuralink, which is going to embed chips into human brains. The first embedding has already happened. The chip is already in a human brain, and this human can now control screens, control devices just using his thoughts. It's a male candidate, I believe. So, what is so special about it? You already have Alexa where you can talk and control devices. This is one step higher where you have not embedded Alexa into your head. So you have a chip in your head, and then you don't have to speak. You don't have to do any sort of gestures, no typing. All you have to do is think. So I'm talking to you on a presentation, and simultaneously, I think, okay, say I name my phone XYZ, XYZ start taking my images in my head without uttering any words, looking at my phone, wherever my phone is prompt, it starts taking my pictures. This is a great application when you're talking about medical technologies, because this could come in handy for people who have lost function of their limbs. Think Stephen Hawking. His life would have been way easier if he had access to these chips during his time. But what if this generation, the Gen Z, the Gen Alpha, whatever we want to call them, they look at this, this is like a cool addition to their mobile gadgets they can have. What if they want to have this mainstream? Then I guess we have already had humanoids amidst us, and they are definitely taking over the world. So I would like to leave you all with this thought that AI is not the villain here. So we are a set of people, set of generations, which are interested with the responsibility of taking the right decisions. I just hope we take the right ones to determine the future of the world. And this is where you can find me. So this QR code leads you to my LinkedIn page. I'll also share the link in the chat in a while, where I write almost 3-4 days in a week about different aspects of scientific writing and publishing. I also curate lists of AI tools for specific purposes. So I curate like 5 tools for making presentations, tools for doing a literature review, and so on. And I mostly curate tools that are free, or tools that you can at least experience for free for a certain limited amount of time. I'm not good with calls, but I'm great with WhatsApp. So you can drop a message if you have a question. And we also have a small startup, a young startup, which edits manuscripts. So we don't write manuscripts, but then you have a draft manuscript. We take over from there. We suggest the good best journals that have a good match with your manuscripts. We proofread your manuscripts, edit them, format your manuscripts, help you address the reviewer comments appropriately, add cover letters. So pretty much the entire paraphernalia. And if you want to avail our services, you can just drop a mail and then we'll take it up from there. And then this QR code is going to lead you to a feedback form. I'll also share the link of the feedback form in the chat box. That is much better, so that you can leave your feedback. And for those of you who leave the feedback, I promise to share a PDF of the list of tools that we discussed today, so that you can have a ready reference list of all the tools. You don't have to come back to the video or the session or your notes. Yeah. So the feedback link is on the chat. Please take 2 minutes to submit the form. In the meantime, I'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you for an insightful session.
Thank you.
Ma'am, you would like to
Yeah.
what? Then we can open for
From
questions.
such an interesting session, I don't have really words to say like how interesting it was. In fact, I was just counting the number of tools which you were just,
Okay.
it
Yeah,
is
I know.
countless. And
Sometimes it can get
I
overwhelming, right? But
I
then,
stopped somewhere in between your presentation. I said, no, it's not like a countable one. But I wish I completed my PhD from IIT Roorkee, and it was a full-time research scholar. And then that time, I wish I could have this kind of a thing, and that it was all manually done. All literature review, and this is such an interesting session. And I'm sure that 1 hour session is not at all enough. You
right.
have showed like literature, especially that literature mapping was a very interesting one. And I think I request Shreyasi also have different sessions based on different tools.
Yeah.
Otherwise
For the
one
different
session is
parts of the
like
paper, I think we need different
yes,
sessions.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So even the
So
one which you
we
have
ran a
mentioned about
10-day workshop, and
yeah,
even after 10 days, like that's like 20 hours. And after 20 hours, we feel like, okay, there is still so much to discuss. There is still so much we could talk about.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I could notice from your, the way you were presenting, you were like, like continuously you were just explaining about the things that shows the kind of a confidence you have in each and every tool.
right,
Like even you have mentioned about something related to um, even making the presentation.
right.
So those are like, I have to even explore each and every tool, at least 10-15 minutes to remember the tool name, not to,
Right, right.
so I wish I want to again call you, maybe like,
Definitely.
we can have even long-term program, not like even 10 days. I think it is not enough. Maybe because in our school we are now thinking to have any program for long term is always beneficial, not like even the seminar of 5 years or even 5 days FDP, we call it as. Even I'm sure that those are things are not enough. So we are actually started a BEAM program here, which is around 500 contact hours in our school, which we are managing with the regular contact hours. So I wish, I think, Shreyasi, I think we should work on this, where maybe around 3 months, maybe, which will help even our faculties as well as master students. And we'll think of how we can run this program, because this is what I think. I'm talking about 10 years back, but the kind of a presentation which you have showed, we are, I think, how many decades we are ahead. I don't understand. I don't know what is next. Is there any
Right.
future again, which will be an extraordinary thing, or this is the end of our, technology invention?
Yeah.
I
It
really, I
puts
don't
us in an
understand.
existential crisis sometimes when we talk about AI.
So I can't even imagine what will be the after 20 years, what kind of a new tools which will be again unimaginable things. So I'm really wholeheartedly, I really am so grateful to you that the kind of a presentation you shared, the content wise, it's amazing. And I don't want to ask any question because I have to digest all these tools
Okay.
in detail, so that I can raise my voice, or I can just ask the question. So
Right.
I want to know what kind of a questions the participants wanted to ask, but definitely I want to work. I just want to invite you to work on how intense program we can stitch it, so that it will be helpful. And if any participants also want to join for those long term session, maybe online or maybe offline.
Yeah.
Offline is always better, but still we will work on it. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Um,
So Lalita, someone raised your hand. Are you able to
Yeah,
unmute yourself?
yeah.
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can.
Yeah, hi, ma'am. That was a very good presentation. Like just like as director ma'am said, there were so many softwares. I wasn't aware that you'll be giving the list if we give the feedback, and I was also making a note. So
Okay.
I missed something called Cantable or something like that because I was toggling between screens to. Did you mention something called Cantable, ma'am?
Grantable. No, grantable.
Grantable, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
grantable
that
is
is
for
a
writing grants, but it is similar to Jenny. So as in where you can interact with the tool. So you give the tool just a prompt, and then it pretty much writes a draft grant for you. And then you can
okay.
also direct the tool to split the components, like create a 5-year timeline. Create a
Okay.
quarter-wise 3-year timeline or so. And I wouldn't call it perfect per se, but at least it gives you an idea. It gives you the the basic structure, the skeletal structure, after which you can work on it.
Okay, ma'am. And another thing I wanted to ask is it actually worth paying like this big bunk of money for this researcher dot life or a paper pal? Because it wanted to become like paper imitation or something like imitation from something that we've already. So there is a difference between getting inspired by something and then yeah, you already told that humanize AI, that thing works, but I don't know how far because most of these are like
Yeah.
paid. Yeah.
So one common question that I get asked is, if I have to pick 3 top tools, what would they be? So I would say Litmaps, PaperPal, if not Researcher.life, just PaperPal or Trinka. Both of them work equally good because they also have plagiarism check. Both of them have the plagiarism check. So you don't have to pay for the full version of Turnitin. You can just pay for your pay per use kind of a thing happens with plagiarism. And then for imaging, I would say you can pick Mind the Graph. Just see if Mind the Graph has sufficient template images for your field for architecture. And if it does, then you can go in for Mind the Graph. And Litmaps offers almost all of its features for free. Most of it is for free until now, but PaperPal has a lot of its features and behind a paywall. And paywall also offers these discounts from time to time. So check out if that is worth the time. Yeah. And our discovery sits within PaperPal, but I think if you have lit maps, connected paper, so that's why I have tried introducing more than one tool. So instead of using just one tool, relying on just one, you can also mix and match. So depending on what your requirement is. So if you want to only create maps, only interact with these papers, Litmaps works. Or say if you want to have much more insights, then go in for Insightful. If you're already well versed with Zotero, then maybe Litmaps also is connected to Zotero and Mendeley, but it's just one additional step. If you don't want that, then you can go into Research Rabbit. Because most of these tools, they are still in the beta testing phase, and that's why they are free. And down the lane, 1 year from now, maybe most of them go into the pro version, right? So that's why I would suggest checking out more than one tool so that even when you lose one to the pro version, you still have another for your basic writing requirements.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Can you please mention that? For image creator for architecture, what did you say?
So it's not specifically for architecture. There is a template based image creator called Mind the Graph. Mind
Can you
the
spell
Graph.
it? My yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I'll just type it into the chat box. So this has around 70,000 templates or so across 80 different fields. And if it works good for you, if you can have these, base structures that work for you, you can go in. You can actually create the images for free, but then if you want to use them on your manuscripts, you need the license, for which you'll have to go for the pro version. The pro version comes with the license.
Okay, is there a possibility that is the same way that I'm searching and generating that image, somebody else in the world will also be searching and get a similar image?
Yeah. Now there comes the question of the plagiarism within images. So that is something the journals and publishers are not talking about much as of now. So what happens when we are using templates? As of now, at least within images, as long as you quote the original source, when you use Mind the Graph to generate images, right under in the figure legend, mention that this image was created using Mind the Graph. And then also under the declarations, add another declaration saying that you use Mind the Graph for generating the images. So once you declare, then you give the opportunity for the editors to really review your images and then ask for revisions if at all necessary. Because with these template images, there is a high possibility that at least the same component of the images will be used by multiple authors, right? So that's the whole point of having template-based images.
But by using all these tools, the weightage of the paper will not go down because we've taken assistance from AI, right, ma'am? When we are mentioning that by using such tools, the weightage of our paper will not go down, right? Because we are mentioning that. Okay.
It will not go down if you actually explicitly tell them where you have used these AI tools. And that is why you cannot use these AI tools to kind of generate major parts of your papers. Yeah, the paper is still yours, just that you have outsourced very small parts of the paper, or you have taken help for minor parts of the paper. So normally, how do you create your images? You either use a tool, so just that you draw from scratch. So here, instead of drawing it from scratch, you pick out some templates and then you arrange them, you add your content. There's a creative component to it as well. So you are explaining your project using these images, right? So then that is acceptable, but make sure that you disclose every single AI usage.
Thank you so much.
We have a question in the chat box from Diya Banerjee. Is there any tool for creating maps from data, for example, census data through AI?
I think you should check out Tableau AI. So that is your data visualization tool where you give the data and the tool gives you options of different forms in which you can actually visualize the data. Graphical representation is one of the easiest to do. So I guess Tableau should work. Yeah, I think apart from that, thank you for the rest of you who took time to appreciate the session. Make sure to submit the feedback form as well. And yeah, any more questions?
I just want to add here for all the participants, we are also working on prompt writing for our design briefs. In fact, I know like a lot of you people are working in educational institutions. So maybe a day or 2-day program, we are thinking of how to write prompt writing for our regular design briefs and all that. So the same thing will be, I think we will share it with all the participants interested may join us. We are working on that. Still the dates are not finalized. So that's why I thought I'll just share you that information. But Sowmiya, really, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. And in architecture, there are just so many possibilities with AI, not just in terms of design. I think there's a company, I don't remember the name, where you can just kind of take a robot and if you have a design on print, the robot basically lays down the layout. So it tells you where all these hard structures have to come. It creates the print onto an actual land, and it stays there to guide you on where the electricals go, where the plumbing go. All these minor details, all these mapping can be actually done on the ground. I don't remember the name now, but that was amazing. I read about it some time ago. So yeah, architecture will change with the AI, definitely. Okay.
Maybe the next session should be that.
Right. Yeah, so I understand that a trial or demo hands-on is nice, but that's a whole session in itself, right? Once you go into one tool, you have so many questions, you have so many things to deal with. Maybe sometime, definitely.
Any other question from the participants? Yes, okay. Don't think we have any questions. I think people would like to go back and actually try out these tools, and then the questions would come.
Yeah, right.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us. And as ma'am mentioned, we hope to see you for in future. Let's figure out
thank you.
some ways, and we'll get back in touch with
Yeah.
you. Okay. Thank you to all the participants as well for joining us, and do continue to join us for all the initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You all have a great evening. See you sometime.
Sure.
Bye.